Welcome back to Let's Learn Git, No Excuses. This is part two, where we're going to be moving forward in time, and we're going to get our hands dirty with some commands, and to do that, we're going to need to install Git. So if you don't already have Git installed, well, this is the time to go install it. I'm not going to walk through that. It's very easy to do. There's a package for every system on the market, and it's completely free and open source. So just go over to git-csm.com if you haven't already installed it. In this series, we're going to look at the command line interface for Git because that's how it was originally designed. But don't let that overwhelm you. If you don't know much about the command line or if you've never used Bash before, that's quite okay. I actually have another series that I'll link above right now to teach you Bash. So you can learn it there, or if you already know Bash, then, well, you're going to like this series. Now, there are a lot of Git GUIs out there, and we're not going to really talk about those. There's a lot to choose from. They all do the exact same thing. They just give you some buttons to smash instead of having to type out the commands. But it all under the covers is Git. It's all the exact same system. So if you learn from the command line, you can use any of these tools you like and be on your way. So the first thing we need to do is actually initiate a local repository. So we can do this in any folder. So what I've done is I created a demo Git folder and simply said git init. And what it did is created a .git folder. Dot means it's invisible. I'm not gonna have to look at it every time I run an LS or just look at things in the Finder, but it's there. And there's a lot of things in here. And if you really want to dig in, all the documentation's open and you can dig in to see what every folder does and what every file is keeping track of. But we're not going to get into most of that for this series. All we need to know is that it's there and it's keeping track of what's going on. We might refer back to things like head a little bit later, but for right now, let's just worry about the fact that it exists. We can always run this command git status. Git status is one of the safest things in the world. It's a read-only operation that literally just tells us what's going on with Git. And here we can see that I have not made any commits yet, and there are files that exist, but I haven't told Git to actually track. You need to specifically tell Git, hey, pay attention to these files. So how are we going to track these files? Well, moving forward, this is a two-step dance that we're going to do locally. One adds files to what's called a staging area, and the other actually commits them for long-term storage. Git add just simply tracks the files and makes Git aware that, hey, I should be recording what's going on. I need to be aware of what changes are being made to this file. Git commit, on the other hand, puts things kind of in a file cabinet. Once you write down a message saying, this is what I did to this file, and it gives you a save point. We can go back to any commit in the repository later on, and in the next video we'll actually go through that a little bit more. But for right now, we just need to add our files. So we can add individual files, like here I've added file1.txt by simply saying git add file1.txt. Now, anybody knows I ran GS there on the second line? That's just git status. I ran an alias. And if you get the hang of using this a lot, then you'll start making your own aliases that make sense to you. So here, we've still not made any commits. And that git status tells us that now we are tracking one file. Changes can be committed from there. And it even tells us what to do if we don't want that file to be tracked. And then it still says here's all the untracked files that we would need to git add. But there is a shortcut. If you don't want to type out every file name, we can simply say git add and then the period. That period is the self-referential dot. It simply means here. So Git will say, all right, all the things I can see, including all the folders and things in those folders, let's go ahead and track all of those things here at once. So now we've added them in and Git's aware of them. Now we can commit. So git commit -m, and then in quotes, we'll write our message. That message is stored long-term, and we'll look at that a little bit later when I say history. But real quick, a side note, if you don't type that -m, if you just say git commit, then it will throw you into your default text editor. And if you're brand new to the command line, this is just a word of warning, nothing to freak out about. It will throw you into something called vim or vi, most likely. And if you've never seen it before, it's a little weird. If you're used to it, then you know what to do. So the first thing you do is hit I to put you into insert mode, and then you can type as you would expect to type. You can use the arrow keys to move up and down. And then you have to hit escape to go to the command mode, and then type :WQ. Colon says I'm about to run an action, and then W is write, Q is quit, so write and quit at the same time. Again, That might be all you ever touch Vim in your life, but that's okay. It's a pretty cool tool, and I highly recommend. I might do a whole video on that in the future. So here I'm modifying an index.html document. Make it very simple. So I can run a git status, say I'm not tracking that file. I can do a git add for that file or a git add dot to add everything. And then I'll make a commit message here that just says hello world added to index. And there we go. I have tracked my files now. So we can actually, there's a command to see all of these messages, to see our history. It's called git log. It shows us literally the log. It shows us what was committed, when it was committed, who committed it, and the message that we wrote. Here you see the last message that I wrote in this git log was added file for.txt. Not super helpful, but for demo purposes, shorter is better. So I kind of skipped over that commit with that long number after it. That is the secret sauce, if there is a secret sauce to Git. That is the commit hash, a unique identifier that probably is going to be unique across all systems that ever get created by humans. That's a very, very unique number. By having such a unique long number, we can know that our projects, no matter how big they get, no matter how many people touch it over time, there's never going to be two commits that accidentally have the same ID. That's a really comforting thing to me, at least. All of these commands, unsurprisingly, have a lot of options you can throw, a lot of flags or parameters you can put behind certain commands to do certain things. Git log has something called one line, which will shorten the log to simply be a little tiny bit of the hash, what the state is, where head is pointing, where our reality exists, and then what the commit message was. Here I'm writing very short messages, so it's very compact and short. This is helpful for just working by yourself and seeing where did I go wrong in this project, where is the last place I know it worked, without having to go and see all of the details. Later on, when we start using those numbers on the side to get in between realities and jump back and forth in time, we can use the short number instead of the very long number as well. So it's pretty handy just to have this one in your head, git log one line. Another really handy tool that's just great to run out of the box, and it's one of those safe ones like git status. You can never go wrong with it. Git diff will show you what the differences are between the last time the file was committed and the current state it's in now. For instance, in this file, what I did was move, this is the second line, down below, this is a third line. So Git actually can tell me in red, hey, these things were removed, and in green, these things were added. That's how Git tracks things. It tracks line by line what's going on. It doesn't know the concept of move. It knows it was taken away or it was added, and it does it by the line. That's simply how it works. And then all the numbers up at the top, the index, again, unique identifiers of how this transacted. Really easy to go back in time and make changes when we have very precise measurements on what exactly happened. So thanks for watching part 2 of Let's Learn Git, No Excuses. Hopefully this was educational. You go back and rewatch it if this is brand new to you. I know I went really quick through some of the examples. Feel free to slow it down or do your own examples at home. That's the only way to really learn Git, is to get the commands in your fingers and get used to the idea of git add, git commit, looking at your logs, looking at your statuses. And once you get a nice, good, long Git history of 10, 20 commits, then the next part will start making a little more sense. So I'll see you in part 3.